Israeli attack against several residential areas in Gaza caused 2 deaths and several wounded during Friday morning. Presidents of Russia and Iran met in Turkmenistan in the context of the forum named Interconnections of Times and Civilizations is the basis of peace and development. And the university unions of Argentina carried out a total stoppage of activities in rejection of the budget veto promoted by the government of Javier Milei. Hello and welcome to From the South. My name is Beren de los Santos. I'm from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. We begin with Palestine as a new Israeli attack against several residential areas in Gaza caused at least 2 deaths and several wounded on Friday morning. According to local sources, the occupation artillery fired missiles at the towns of Jabalia and Saftawi, killing at least 1 civilian in each location. The spokesman of the Civil Defense Agency indicated that at least 16 Palestinians have already been rescued in the Jabalia camp, although the number of victims trapped under the rubble is still unknown. Israel's continuous aggression against the Gaza Strip by land, sea and air since October 7th of last year has so far caused the death of over 42,000 citizens and injured more than 97,000, most of them being children and women. And in this context, the non-aligned movement expressed on October 10th its concern over the use of internationally banned weapons in the Israeli genocide against Palestine and also Lebanon. During the meeting of the Executive Council of the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, the movement expressed its concern and warned about the use of white phosphorus by the Zionist regime, which causes long-term damage to human health. These countries supported the Palestinian request for an investigation in Gaza into the threat of the Israeli regime's use of chemical weapons. Iran's ambassador to the Netherlands, Hadi Farayvand, condemned the use of chemical weapons and warned that they are a serious threat to international and regional peace and security. And also we go to Lebanon as following the Israeli offensive, the United Nations Under-Secretary General for Peace Operations reported that 2 UN peacekeepers had been injured and hospitalized right after. Let's see.
This situation has put our peacekeepers at serious risk. Clashes in the Labuneh/Nakura area since the 8th of October have involved tank and small arms fire, airstrikes, Iron Dome interceptions and multiple explosions. 2 peacekeepers were wounded when earlier today a UN post, OP-14, in UNIFIL's headquarters in Nakura was hit by tank fire.
An Indonesian Foreign Minister, Retno Marsudi, also condemned on Friday the Israeli attack on the UN peacekeeping mission in southern Lebanon.
Indonesia strongly condemns this attack. An attack on UN personnel and property constitutes a serious violation of international humanitarian law and UN Security Council Resolution No. 1701.
In this context, Lebanon's interim Prime Minister Najib Mikati urged Israel to stop its attacks on civilians, noting that 139 people were killed during Thursday's bombings. This way, the official called for a UN resolution demanding an immediate ceasefire from Israel and asserted that all the victims of last day's attacks were civilians. And the statement comes after at least 22 people were killed and 117 were wounded in 2 Israeli bombings on Thursday night in residential areas of Beirut, the Lebanese capital. In addition, Mikati stressed that the Israeli attack on UN peacekeepers in the south of the country is a denounced crime. And in other news, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN, held on Thursday, the second day of its summit taking place in Vientiane, the capital of Laos. On this day, meetings were held with the prime ministers of China, India, and Canada, as well as with the Russian foreign minister, among other external partners. After the meeting with the representatives of the Chinese government, the signing of an agreement to expand China's free trade agreement with ASEAN was announced. In this sense, PM Li Qiang emphasized that in the context of instability and uncertainty, China and the organization have an opportunity to develop together in a climate of slow recovery of the international economy. In the framework of the ASEAN summit, Foreign Minister of Russia, Sergey Lavrov, warned the countries of the actual intentions of U.S. actions.
Because everything they do is aimed at containing China and Russia, and in the name of this task, everything that has been accumulated over the long 10 years within the ASEAN-centric format, which was convenient for everyone, which took into account the interests of each and everyone, all of it is being sacrificed. So, the destructive nature of the U.S. actions in this part of the world is obvious.
And also 32 countries confirmed the participation in the BRICS summit that will take place in Kazan, Russia. According to Russian presidential advisor Yuri Ushakov, the event will take place this year in the Russian city of Kazan from October 22nd to 24th under the theme Strengthening Multilateralism for Global Development and Security. 32 countries have confirmed their participation, including member countries and those wishing to cooperate with the organization. Ushakov stated that the event aims to promote multilateralism and development among the emerging economies. The former president of Brazil, Dilma Rousseff, spoke about the issue of the de-dollarization and highlighted the upwards trend of using other international currencies besides the dollar, a strategy that helps people to strengthen their respective economies.
First of all, I don't think it's de-dollarization. I think it's the use of different currencies that expands your currency basket, as the euro expanded, as the euro had at a certain point in time. Everybody used and still uses the euro as a reference currency.
Now let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. The presidents of Russia, Vladimir Putin, and Iran, Masoud Pezeshkian, met in Turkmenistan in the context of a forum named The Interconnection of Times and Civilizations is the Basis of Peace and Development. The two leaders met in Ashgabat, the capital of Turkmenistan, where they have traveled to attend an event commemorating the anniversary 300 of the birth of the poet Magtymguly Fragi. Russian presidential advisor Yuri Ushakov said that the meeting between the two heads of state is of great importance, both to address bilateral issues and to discuss the aggravated situation in the Middle East. The forum is also attended by presidents of more than a dozen countries and international organizations.
Relations with Iran are a priority for us, and they are developing very successfully. We are actively working together on the international arena, and our views of events in the world are often very close.
We now move on to other topics. Heavy rains in Chad caused severe floodings and the rise of the Lagon River level in this capital that has exceeded 8.18 meters, a record not recorded in more than 40 years. The rainy season has caused widespread flooding in several districts of N'Djamena. Citizens are trying to contain the floods, which are not only caused by the rains, but also by the swelling of the Chari River, which flows through the city. The Prime Minister, Hala Mayalina, called a meeting of the National Flood Committee to draw up an action plan. The floods have affected 8 districts in Jamina city and 17 of the 23 provinces of Chad. 576 people have been killed and more than 1.9 million have been affected since last July.
As you've seen, there's been a lot of flooding, all due to heavy rainfall, so this year the water has really risen, so the water level is so much higher even than it was in 2022. Faced with this situation, we young people in the neighborhoods have realized that if we don't try to make our own contribution by waiting for the authorities or even the heads of the various districts to come and help us, it can't work.
In other news, in Pakistan, an armed attack on a mine in Balochistan province left at least 20 deaths and injured 7 people. In this regard, a police officer reported that the incident occurred late Thursday evening in the Duki area and the victims were mostly from Balochistan region, with some being from Afghanistan. So far, no armed group has claimed accountability for the strike, in which perpetrators used heavy weapons, rocket launchers and hand grenades. These kind of attacks have been occurring more often in the country in recent months, targeting companies involved in the extraction of mineral resources, as well as the foreign employee working for them.
"20 innocent people were killed. These poor people did not belong to any party or group. They were just there to earn a living for their children. Some of them were from Afghanistan, some from Kilisaifola and other parts of the country. These cruel attackers murdered 20 innocent people."
And we go now to the United States, as with less than 4 weeks to go before the presidential elections, polls reveal the Democratic Party candidate Kamala Harris to have a 4-point lead over her Republican opponent, Donald Trump. According to a survey conducted by The Economist and YouGov, Kamala Harris leads the race with 49% support, ahead of Trump's 45%, with the current vice president also showing a small 3% advantage among registered voters. In addition, the study revealed that 4% of voters are still undecided. On the other hand, the pollsters' entity surveyed the main issues of concern for voters ahead of the November 5th elections, which were the economy and employment, national security, healthcare, immigration, and climate change, among others. Now we have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English, there you will be able to re-watch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. In Colombia, in view of the recent coup d'etat attempt planned by the country's right wing, the different political forces that support the government of President Gustavo Petro called on the population to march in defense of his presidency. In this regard, Senator of the Common Party Sandra Ramirez issued a call for people to take to the streets to march on October 11th if the right wing in Colombia still wants to usurp the power from the change government. For her part, the Wayuu native leader and Congresswoman of the House of Representatives, Carmen Ramirez Boscan, pointed out that it is necessary to support the government's call to mobilize in order to defend democracy and achieve the triumph of the revolutionary forces. And in Venezuela, the first political and academic forum on the situation in Colombia proposed a political dialogue process in Caracas with the mediation of Venezuela, CELAC, and ALBA TCP countries. The Foreign Ministry of Venezuela released an official statement with the conclusions. After the forum, in view of the worsening of the crisis in this country, as well as the execution of a coup d'etat publicly denounced by President Gustavo Petro, it is proposed to carry out a broad process of political discussion among Colombian actors with the direct mediation of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. The statement goes on to say that it is proposed to invite President Xiomara Castro, in her capacity of President pro tempore of the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States, CELAC, as well as the countries of the Bolivarian Alliance for the Peoples of Our America, ALBA TCP, to contribute their good offices in this process of dialogue and to promote conversations that tend to build ways towards respect for popular sovereignty that guarantee the full well-being of Colombia. The statement continues to say that the discussions held in this forum have also reached consensus on the importance of political and diplomatic relations between Venezuela and Colombia, which have taken on a positive dynamic since their relaunch 2 years ago with the arrival of President Petro's government. Finally, the proposal of the large community of Colombians in Venezuela, made up of millions of migrants, to join the initiatives proposed by this forum, which has been carried out invoking the noblest principles of solidarity among the Bolivarian peoples, has also been welcomed. In other news, the university unions of Argentina carried out a total stoppage of activities in rejection of the ratification of the budget veto promoted by the government of Javier Milei. The workers' union stated that the measure sought to repudiate the decision of the Congress against the popular mandate, fight for the defense of the university sector, and the salary plan. In this regard, the public university system stated that 70% of the salaries of the sector are below the poverty line and threatened to continue the protest in view of the budget cuts faced by the public institutions of the country. Also, the university unions called for a new national strike for October 17th. And state-owned oil company Petróleos Mexicanos, Pemex, reported on Thursday a chemical spill at the Deer Park refinery located in Texas, United States, that caused the death of 2 people. In an official note, the company said that affected workers are being treated. In addition, Pemex explained that the emergency protocols were activated and the corresponding investigations are being carried out to know the causes of the accident and to guarantee the reactivation of facilities. In this context, the company's head, Victor Padilla, offered updated statements on the incident during Friday's presidential morning conference.
Yesterday afternoon, we had an accident at the Deer Park refinery, which is located in Texas. As you know, there was a sour gas leak. It is hydrogen sulfide gas, which is severely harmful to health. We had 35 people affected, of which only 13 were evaluated locally and sent to the hospital, and they are in good health. However, they remain in the hospital for 24 hours for protocol reasons. Unfortunately, we have 2 fatalities, which are the workers who were directly working in the affected area and who received the direct impact of the gas. A series of investigations are currently underway to unveil the causes of the accident. We cannot yet state or point out exactly what they have. We cannot speculate on the reasons for what happened until the incident is concretely analyzed.
And we go now to world news, as on Friday, the Norwegian Nobel Committee awarded the Japanese group Nihon Hidankyo, formed by atomic bomb survivors, with the 2024 Peace Nobel Prize for their tireless work against the use of nuclear weapons.
To find the laureate is, of course, even more challenging when dark sky is on the horizon, when conflicts is present around the world. But this year we want to highlight the important and the astonishing fact that nuclear weapons have not been used in 80 years, also because of the incredible work of the Nihon Hidankyo. This year's prize is both a wake-up call to the world, but it's also to recognize how individuals can stand up and create hope by telling their stories.
And in this context, after receiving the award news, Hidankyo's Hiroshima branch executive highlighted the parallels between the current situation in Gaza and the devastation caused by the atomic bomb in Japan.
After all, it is all about peace. The images of the children in Gaza covered with blood held by their parents remind me of Japan 80 years ago. Children lost their fathers in the war and lost their mothers with the nuclear bomb. They became orphans.
And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and also on TikTok. For TeleSUR English, my name is Belén de los Santos. Thank you for watching.